Happy New Year and welcome back to the first episode of the Wolff Den, presented by Win Again Academy. Mark Moyer doing some great things with his club room and networking events. Check out winagainacademy.com. Today we welcome Vince Kadlubek of Meow Wolf to the Wolff Den. How's everything going today?
It's good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to talk to you. A lot of exciting things going on with what you're working on, but give everyone a quick introduction to yourself and then we'll get into it.
Cool, yeah. So I'm Vince Kadlubek. I'm one of the founders of Meow Wolf, and I'm a member of the board of directors at Meow Wolf as well. I was CEO of the company from 2015 until 2019, and then stepped down at that time and have remained a part of the company since. It's been an amazing ride. Meow Wolf produces these like large scale immersive multimedia experiences, art-based experiences, like these gigantic wonderlands that you can walk inside of. And we opened one in Santa Fe in 2016, and then have just like grown since then. And we opened one in Vegas in February of this past year, and then we opened Denver in September of this past year. So we now have 3 of these like large scale exhibitions open, and yeah, it's been just like this insane ride. So thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, so let's start from the beginning. How did this come to be?
Gosh, that's a big question. So we were a social group in Santa Fe in like 2006, 2007. And we were just like hanging out. We were all like artists or producers or event producers of some sort. But we were in our 20s in this town, in a very small town in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we wanted to express ourselves through any medium that we could. And, there's a lot of galleries here, a lot of like art spaces. But we weren't being invited, like our social group, our little clique, in Santa Fe, we weren't really being invited to like show in their spaces. And it was really frustrating. We were like, we wanted to just kind of be part of the cultural fabric here. So instead of like waiting around to be invited, we just opened our own venue. We just opened our own space. And at that time, that was 2008. In 2008, we opened our own space and we called it Meow Wolf. And it was just like a bunch of friends who got together. It's kind of like a clubhouse. And we, through music shows, like punk shows and dance parties inside of this space, we all pitched on rent. And then we dumpster dived basically for materials because we're all broke, we're all just like working restaurant jobs and stuff. So we dumpster dived for materials to decorate the space, so we would started to create these like immersive environments out of like whatever materials we could find or whatever materials we could get donated. And then that just sort of like continued, like the group got momentum and we started to build more complex stuff. And it like just snowballed. We had a project in 2011, 3 years after we had initially formed, where we built this giant ship. And it was like a 2-story ship. It was inside of this warehouse, and people like lost their minds. They loved it. And it was at that point where we're like, okay, wow, we're producing stuff now that's like legitimate. Like we could sell tickets, like we could take this to a more national stage. And so that got the gears turning to like turning the, basically moving the work that we were doing into a more like, permanent business oriented, sustainable thought. And so that's basically the track we've been on. It was all just a cultural movement, passion project for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. So why do you think you weren't getting invited to participate in some of the galleries in the art scene?
Well, Santa Fe is a funny place. Like it's an incredible city. It's like so dynamic and so diverse, but it has like a really solidified art market to it. There's a lot of galleries. There's more galleries per capita here than there are anywhere else in the world. And there's a Santa Fe style like of art, and there's a Santa Fe identity, and it's like Southwestern art, sunsets, cowboy boots, a lot of like historical art. And what we wanted to do was like contemporary, maximal, millennial expression. And it didn't jive with the character that Santa Fe was trying to present. In our minds, like Santa Fe also was like fringe and psychedelic and weird, and like we fit perfectly into a Santa Fe that we understood. But it was like the folks who owned galleries and the folks who ran tourism departments and stuff, like they didn't understand the layer that we existed in, you know.
Is Cocapelli, is that a Santa Fe
Yeah.
Mexico
Yeah,
thing?
Cocapelli for sure.
Yeah, it's art is so subjective, and it's such a fine line between who makes it huge and who doesn't. So many talented people out there who nobody's ever heard of, and then people out there, like the banana taped to the wall and it's sold. So art is like there's no objective measure
Right.
with what makes great art, because there's stuff that people are like, oh, I can do that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you see these major art things, and I think that's the same with a lot of things. If you talk about sports, right? I mean, I play basketball with people who I think are better than a ton of people I've seen who've done well
Yeah.
at higher levels. So it's interesting. The people that you were
Yeah.
founded with um, were not artists as their first job. These were hobbies.
No, I mean, nobody had art as their first job, like especially when you're in your 20s. I mean, the art market is so upside down. I mean, it's like you have a ton of artists out there. Hardly any of them can do it professionally because the art market is so limited to like a specific type of customer. It's like 95% of people in the world don't really participate in the traditional art market. And so you're trying to like target such a small number of people in the world. And that was kind of a big part of what Meow Wolf was trying to do, is like we believed that art and creativity and imaginative expression is something that everybody wants to participate in. Like it doesn't matter how old you are, how you grew up, what your background is, what president you voted for, that everybody wants that. And that the problem has been that the art market has really just focused down this like very specific lane and has gate kept the whole industry in this way, and has geared it towards like rich folks and like highly intellectual, highly cerebral folks. And then you get like duct tape bananas and stuff, and it's a joke to like 95% of the world. The art market is a joke, like it's artsy fartsy. It's like, and we just kind of saw that as being such a shame. Like, can we create art? Can we create a type of art that is going to be welcoming to everybody, and that is going to kind of touch the soul, touch the spirit of anyone, no matter who they are? And that's kind of what we have sort of done. That's what we've accomplished.
Yeah, art is very visual, but on the contrary, it tells a story which could really intrigue people and motivate people or inspire people. That maybe the art isn't necessarily great, but what it's saying is what makes it, the beauty of it.
Yeah, I think like as obviously the question of like what is art, and I wrote a piece that was published in Blue Loop recently that was kind of talking about the question, is Meow Wolf art? And fundamentally, I think art is creation. Like if you create something, it's art. And so very broad umbrella in my definition. But I think what's important about art is that it opens people up to possibility. You see something that has come from the imagination that you've never seen before, and it makes you realize that there's more possible in the world. We can make other things from our imagination. I think that's like the important connectivity that art has to the human experience. And when the sad thing is that so many people, because of the way that the art market has limited a vast majority of people, or gate kept a vast majority of people, that connectivity that the public has with their own imagination and their own ability to foresee possibility, to manifest what they envision, there's like this huge disconnect, and that's how you change your life. That's how you change your relationships. That's how you change your relationship to your job. That's how you change your family dynamics, is by envisioning and then taking the steps towards making that vision happen. And that all happens within the artistic practice, and so our hope is that we unlock that for more people, that we sort of inspire that in more people's lives.
What does Meow Wolf mean? What is the reasoning for that name?
So the very first meeting that we had back in 2008, like I saw a building and I was like, hey guys, do you want to like get together and form like a legit social group and give ourselves a name and like start to, and so everybody was down to do it. We had about 12 people. And at the end of the meeting, we said, we need a name. So we put a bunch of words in one hat and a bunch of words in another hat. And we started pulling out words out of both and kind of combining them. And then we voted, and Meow Wolf was the one that won out.
What were some of the other options?
Yeah, there was like the Vibe Hut, like VIBE Hut, Vibe Hut. There was the Wolf Palace. There was I Ship. Meow Wolf is definitely the best one out of it. But when we voted on it, we walked away from the meeting just being like, what the hell have we done? Like calling ourselves Meow Wolf. But I think it works now. It's like, there's like something cute and cuddly about Meow Wolf. There's something like super like adorable, but then there also is something very aggressive and very vicious. We kind of balance both.
Well, let's talk about the experience. Is this an exhibit? Is it a museum? Is it that's kind of an exhibit in a museum. What can people expect if they come to the experience?
So we have three different exhibitions around the country. Like I said, Santa Fe, Vegas, and Denver. Santa Fe is the original one, and they all have a similar format. You buy a ticket, you walk into the building, and then the world is yours. And inside that world is tons, like dozens and dozens, if not like over 100 different spaces. Those spaces are created with visual art, soundtrack by audio. There's like secret passageways. There's a lot of places to explore. There's a lot of things to discover. There's a story that is woven through all these experiences. So you're kind of like in an open world video game, but in real life. And it's up to you to experience it however you want to experience it. Like if you want to walk through the spaces and take selfies and just experience the art, you're welcome to do that. If you want to lounge and people watch, you can do that. If you want to treat the place kind of like a playground and climb and crawl, and you can do that. So it's really up to you how you experience the space. But it's, like in Santa Fe, we worked with about 200 artists. In Vegas and Denver, each project probably had like 500 or 600 artists. So the work is really dynamic. Every room's different. And really core to the experience is exploration and discovery, giving people the opportunity to just like explore a totally unknown space that's visually like the coolest fucking visuals in the world, basically. Like that's what we're really trying to do, is create like the coolest visuals, that we can. So
how long are people staying in the experience?
On average, it's like 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours. There's some people who stay all day. Like they show up and they're there for like 7 or 8 hours, they're taking naps on, couches that we have inside the space. Like they're just like totally immersing themselves in it.
If I go back, is it no two experiences are the same? It's kind of how you make it, or it's very similar, but still, there's still value to going back and seeing something over again, even if it's the same experience.
So I think that like the experience is so maximal. Like we pack it in with so much work and so many rooms, and it's not like it's not like a single file line type experience, so you can go any which way. And because of that, it sort of has this maze like layout to it, and it's really hard for your brain to map. So it's like there's a lot of stuff to look at, and then there's this like maze like feel to it. So when you leave, it's really hard to remember what it is that you experience. Like give it a week and you're already like, yeah, I remember that room, remember that thing that we saw. So there's a kind of a need to go back just to kind of like re-experience the stuff that you saw, you know. And then we also change stuff out. So we'll rotate out rooms, we'll bring new artists in, we'll add new elements like every few months. So, you know, I think, and then you're in there with like another like 1,000 people, you know. So there's in Denver, for instance, you're inside of this space with like 1,000+ people all wandering around this world. And then it makes it so that the people themselves are, you know, the guests themselves are like part of the show. They're part of the experience. And so people watching or just engaging with strangers is like all kind of part of the experience as well.
Are there any tour guides available, or it's just on your own?
It's totally on your, like, it's totally on your own. We don't even like to give you a map or give you a sense, because like we really believe that exploration and discovery are the two key components of a Meow Wolf experience. We want people to explore and we want them to discover. And the human mind explores and discovers best within unknown environments. Like if it's known, if it's described, then you're not really feeling that sense of exploration and discovery. But we do have performers who are like wandering around the space, like inhabitants of the world, who are performer. They're characters. They're performing. And they're engaging with the guests. You know, if you want to, and so that kind of adds a whole nother layer of spontaneity to it.
How did you get into art? I mean, you said there's a group of people and they were all kind of in the art world, but how did you get into art when you were growing up? Is that something you knew you wanted to be involved with?
It's funny because like the term art to me meant like drawing,
Right.
you know, or painting, like crafts. You know, I'm terrible at it. Like I'm terrible at visual art, like by hand. But I was always fascinated with imaginative works. And it was like probably in my teenage years that I started writing a lot, and I also started to decorate my rooms, my bedrooms. And after I moved out of my parents' house, I moved into an apartment, and just turned the entire apartment into like a crazy fun house thing, like with Christmas lights and fabrics and paint. And I just made my entire like apartment this crazy fun house. And that was sort of my first venture, I guess, into this realm. But honestly, like the thing that has driven me more than anything is like live theater. I really like the experience of people sitting in a theater, sitting down, and then having a performance for them happen around them. And so that's been my medium of choice, has been live theater.
Yeah, I'm a big color guy. I love my office is orange and blue. You can see here for the colors and from my school. And I always want a lot of color in, which is, you know, Meow is everything I see is just bright colors, you know, neon and great combinations. Is that throughout the whole experience, or is there kind of more?
Yeah. I mean, we like balance it with like, you know, there is a lot of color for sure, because we that's just kind of an aesthetic. Like if you see our logo is like multicolored. That's sort of the aesthetic that we've all gravitated towards. But as we've evolved as artists, you know, now we're in our mid to late 30s, like the founders, we are interested in, you know, more minimal spaces, or, you know, softer spaces that don't have so much noise to them, you know, in juxtaposition, in contrast with all of the other, you know, highly psychedelic, highly like fluorescent stuff. So I think it's a balance now for us. But you can definitely anticipate that if you go to a Meow Wolf, you're gonna like see crazy psychedelic worlds, you know.
Yeah, I think it's for those people who can handle it. Obviously, if you can't handle that visually, I want to talk about the dynamics of the founders and starting a company. I'm obviously started my company on my own. There's certainly advantages to having a larger group, but there's probably some disadvantages to having a larger group. So how did it kind of come from, you know,
like
doing these events and then saying, hey, we can do a business. How are we going to attack this business? You know, what does that look like?
It was such an evolution, like a natural organic evolution. Because when we started as a social group, it was all volunteer. You know, we were just hanging out. It was just a clubhouse. And but there still needed to be organization. Like we needed to have meetings. We needed to discuss what we're doing next. Like when are we going to release the flyers for a certain event, or, you know, a lot of that, how are we going to raise money? How are we going to pay rent? And so I ended up just sort of naturally falling into a leadership position, just kind of organically amongst our group. And I was always the guy who was like putting out donation boxes at our openings, cardboard boxes that said donations on them, and trying to get people to like donate money. That was always like my role early on. And that kind of just that evolved, that grew. Like we did a big theater performance, and I was a writer and a co-director of it. When we did the big ship project, I was kind of the point person for it. And then what happened with Meow Wolf was like the ship happened. It was really successful. A lot of people saw it. It got a lot of press, and that was 2011. But then it like the energy of Meow sort of dissipated. Like it didn't really get us to where we wanted to be, because we weren't a business yet. We were like still doing this nonprofit project. And so then when all of the energy sort of dissipated, like we stopped having meetings, people sort of moved on with their life. They moved to other cities. But I really believed, like me and a few others really believed that Meow Wolf still had like something left in us, And so I started putting together a business plan for this large scale permanent exhibition, and just kind of learned took what I had learned over the years, budgeting wise and pitching wise, and started this business plan. And the first person I pitched it to was George R. R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones. He lives in Santa Fe. And I went to George. I knew him from another job. And I went to George and I said, hey, here's a business plan for this really crazy project, but we need a building. Would you be willing to buy this building? And he said yes. And that was just like, of course, having George R. R. Martin, at the kind of peak of his popularity, being our landlord, buying a building, being a partner, then it was like, we struck gold, because I could go out and now raise money from investors based on that, like, hey, George R. R. Martin's involved. And so that really just got the ball rolling, like in a big way. And we all had to learn business pretty fast. Like we had to like get up to speed on what all this stuff was, raising money, what debt was, what a budget looked like, what the cash flow, valuations, all this stuff. But I, especially as the CEO, I was like in rapid growth around it. Like I had to learn quickly, So we raised about $2 million in the first 12 months. That got the House of Eternal Return open in Santa Fe. And within the first year of it being open, we had generated like $6 million of revenue, and we had 100 employees and lines out the door. So I was like, holy shit, we are operating a business right now, And the question was like, what do we do now, And I was, as a CEO, I was just like, let's step on the gas. Like, let's raise more money. Let's get leases signed in bigger cities. Let's go bigger, let's keep going. And so I really just like went with the rocket ship mentality. And it was a really exciting time. We grew to about 500 people, bought a production facility, and just took off, man.
How do you decide? I mean, you opened two last year. How do you decide? Obviously, Vegas, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But how do you decide where to go and where you're going to go next?
Yeah, it's a combination of obviously the market matters, like the market size, tourism numbers matter. The local artistic community is a big part of it too. And so in Denver, for instance, like there's an incredible like artistic community in Denver. And so that was always very resonant with us. It was like, we should do a project in Denver because there's so much wealth of creative talent there. And then I think the relationship with the landowner, with the developer, ultimately we're doing these gigantic buildings, and so it's a big capital outlay project. And so having a partner there, having someone who's like sees the vision and is excited about it, I think is an important part of it. And we have that in all three of our cities. The one in Vegas, especially, like this guy Winston Fisher, who opened Area 15, and Meow Wolf is like the main tenant, is like the anchor tenant inside of Area 15. And Winston's vision is just like amazing and just aligned with us perfectly. So,
what do you have a sense of what percentage are tourists and how many people are local to the area, or at least within?
Yeah,
decent driving distance?
Yeah, in Santa Fe, it's like 50-50. And then in Denver, it's about like 70-30 local. And then in Vegas, it's like 70-30, maybe even more, like 80-20 tourists. So ideally, I think we'd like it to be 50-50, in every market. But um, yeah, it's different depending on the market. But all three are doing incredibly well. They're different. Every project's different. Like there's nothing replicated in any one of the projects. So it's definitely a nice road trip to go to Santa Fe, Vegas, and Denver and check out all three.
Yeah. Have you thought about or been approached to have your environments in some type of television or movie production or even music videos? I mean, it sounds like that would be an environment that might be pretty cool for some.
Totally. Well, we did a T-Pain video in Santa Fe. He shot a music video
Yeah.
there. We shot a music video with Migos. Doja Cat has done something, Shaky Grave. So we've done a lot of music oriented stuff. And with regards to like film and television, yeah, I mean, like there's people who come to us want to use Meow Wolf as a set. And so like there was this Paul Rudd film, I forgot what it was called, but there's a Paul Rudd film that was shot in Santa Fe, and then the characters go to Meow Wolf as part of the film, which is pretty funny. But we also have interest in doing film and television. Of course, like we're a creative group. We want to create amazing art and amazing storytelling, no matter the medium. So of course we want to do, all sorts of projects. We're going to do television and film and theater and books and comic books, and it's kind of there's no limit here, to what creativity can do. So
How many of the original founders are really still involved in the day to day or week to week?
So like the founders of the business, there's like 6 of us who had kept up with the momentum after everything sort of dissipated, and all 6 of us are still a part of the company. There's also like a group of like 30 or 40 people who have been working on projects with Meow Wolf since 2008, and I would say like 75% of those are still with the company. And then there's about 150 people who did the first Santa Fe exhibit, and I would say like 100 out of that 150, maybe 120 out of the 150 are still with the company. So it's been pretty cool. Like we've grown together, we've matured together, and yeah, we're at a pretty critical point right now in our company's history, because like we just got Vegas open, we just got Denver open, and now the future's in front of us, and they're all successful. So like there's a big question of like, okay, where do we go now? It's exciting.
Is 2022 a growth of existing or possibly adding some more? What are your thoughts?
I think 2022, if I was to put words to it, are like it's a year of integration. It's like we spent the last couple of years really focused on getting Vegas and Denver open, and we brought in an incredible leadership team and incredible like infrastructure to deliver on these projects. But I think now that we've delivered on it, it's like getting back to our roots, re-examining who we are, integrating all the aspects. That's, I think, is gonna be really, really key. And with that, I think it's like envision. It's back to the envisioning process and then strategizing around how we deliver on that vision. And I think that's going to be a really important aspect of 2022 for us. Live events. We're gonna have some like really awesome, music festivals and live music shows that happen that I think are going to be really exciting in 22. And then we'll see. There might be some other things. Not exactly sure.
Yeah, I'm all about the in-person stuff, and when you're talking about art, having physical art and visual, even though it's not all physical art, right? Because some of it is digital, but it's you being there
Yeah.
in a physical space. Obviously, the world is going digital, and everything's headed that way in a lot of ways. But I'm betting on with my stuff that people want to see something tangible and physical, and actually go out in person and experience that. How do you navigate through the change and move towards everything online?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think like obviously any company that wants to be a successful company these days needs to have a digital strategy and figure out how to like have a technology and digital strategy. But honestly, like the digital world, the apps and websites, and it's so saturated. Like it's been given trillions of dollars of investment over the last 20 years. It's everyone's been focused on the web, focused on the internet, focused on apps, and it's great. There's a lot of really great stuff, like a lot of great content. But then when you step out of your house and get off of your phone and you look at the world, look at the physical world, you're like, what the hell is there to do? Like, what is new? What's exciting out in the physical world? There's been a total lack of like creativity and investment in the physical world. Suburban developments look the same today as they did 30 years ago. Do you see your options are still like bowling alleys, movie theaters, and miniature golf? It's like, and so I also agree. Like I love location based. I love the physical world. I love bringing the same type of imagination that people pumped into the bring it to the physical world. So, and then down the line, it's going to be the integration of the two. It's going to be AR, spatial computing. Yeah, how does the digital exist within the physical? Is I think the big the big opportunity.
I mean, it'd probably be like if I'm in a metaverse walking around looking at some of the installations that you have, it's probably cool. But again, nothing's going to be being right in front of it.
Totally.
Visually. It's like the difference between me trying to take a picture of a rainbow or take a picture of the moon. It's just you can't even sunsets. I mean, just there's stuff that can't hold a candle to
totally
the physical aspect of it.
Yeah, we pride ourselves on that too. Like we try to create work that does look good on video or on your camera, on your phone, but that you really have to be there to really experience it. That's the goal for us. But yeah, I think like the metaverse obviously is the buzzword of the moment, and there's a lot of validity to it. Like the internet is evolving, and the internet is becoming spatial, and I'm most excited about how the internet is going to interface with the physical world. And that's mostly where my imagination goes.
I feel like there's so many good things that can be done, and the ideas are good, but the execution is not good. And then all people are hopping on that bad execution. It's like I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of well executed stuff in the metaverse or even in like the NFT world that people are all crazy about, but they pile onto it. I think
totally.
That kind of we need people to do better because then it will evolve.
Yeah, we're in early days. Like it's similar to early days of .com. Where you have all these websites, all these people jumping in, pets.com, like this whole craze. Nobody really knows what a website's supposed to do, but everyone's trying to build one, and they're clunky because the technology is not really there yet, and it took 10 years for the World Wide Web to really like understand what its purpose is and how it fits into the world, into people's lives, and I think similarly here with NFTs and with the metaverse and with VR and AR stuff, we're just scratching the surface. And there's some people who do it well, but it's like 5% of those out there kind of in this craze who are really delivering, I think, like quality user experiences that are functional in people's lives, like a positive functional thing in people's lives.
Yeah, I think the barrier to entry and the ease of knowledge now makes it like people can just pile on. Back in the day, they were like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's let these people do it, and then we'll follow. But now it's just been a rush because people see dollar signs, and it's just
totally.
In the art world, in a lot of different worlds, doing this stuff just merely for the money is, I think it's a recipe for failure. But
absolutely. Well, that's always the case with creativity. You can tell what movies or what albums are done for the money versus the ones that the money is a byproduct of the spirit, and it always turns out that the ones done for the money are not as good, and then they end up not making the money. Like it's this whole, it's the irony of it, that like to make good art, to make art that touches the hearts and souls of people, you have to really dig into authenticity and let the money be a byproduct, be a secondary aspect of it. Like that's always been true, you know.
What other art installations or exhibits do you guys follow and are fans of? Have you been down to Art Basel here in Miami?
A couple of the Meow Wolf founders have been down there and showed some work. I've never been to Art Basel. It feels like a cacophony, you know, shit show
Yeah.
possibly. I don't know. It just seems like a lot, you know, and it seems like a lot of like that trend stuff, and you know, a lot of energy and a lot of like social status, and so it's never really been attractive to me. Um, but I think the stuff that has resonated, at least with me, and I think other founders, is like this group Team Lab out of Japan does incredible work. Moment Factory out of Montreal, the City Museum in St. Louis, like that is a really incredible space, and it's sort of the like forefather, I guess you could say, of this whole movement is the City Museum in St. Louis. It's unbelievable, and it's been around for like 30 years. I personally love theme parks. I'm like a big Disneyland guy and like Universal Studios. I love the work that the theme park industry does. Kind of wish it was more like imaginative and more art forward, but it's pretty incredible as is. Like, and yeah, I don't know. There's groups. There's a lot of art collectives and smaller groups doing stuff like Factory Obscura in Oklahoma or Dimensional Innovations in Kansas City. Yeah, there's a lot of folks who are doing some cool stuff.
Art is, I mean, it's expensive. I try and decorate. I go to shows and I see so many great things that I would love to have up on my wall, you know, in my
Yeah,
house. But it's like, man, it's hard to afford that. So is the art collecting a lot more of the people who have money and are investing in
yeah,
it, or
totally.
are they just trying to decorate because this thing is cool, and then they don't have to go to, you know, the smaller type of shops and store like Home Goods?
Now, of course, like the art market is oriented towards those who can afford to buy it, you know, buy the work, and that's where you then end up getting such the myopic audience, you know, such the slim audience. It's like, oh, there's only 5 or 10% of people in the world who can even afford the majority of the work that shows in galleries, you know, and that was a big part. I mean, that was the big part of the business plan for us was this belief that everybody wants to experience art, and instead of selling $5,000 or $10,000 paintings, we're going to sell $25 tickets to walk through a space, you know, and just hope that everybody wants to show up, you know. And it's true, like people are driving from Kansas and Nebraska and Iowa, and like people who you would not expect to want to come to a Meow Wolf. Like it's amazing, like the diversity of audience that we have.
Did you see the documentary Made You Look on Netflix about the counterfeit art?
No, I haven't.
It's a wild documentary
Did
about,
you look?
yeah, Made You Look. It's about counterfeit art and these people who were pushing it, and it's just the way that it got through. Again, people are so, you know, they're really interested in the value of this art and want to believe that what they have is so valuable, and it's a lesson on, like, you know, I guess it's, again, how objective art can be.
Well,
Because
I mean,
art's the same whether it's a rip, whether someone remade it or not. The art itself is the same, right?
somebody remade it or not? What do you mean by that?
I mean, if I replicated an art, it's still that art. The beauty of that, especially if it looks exactly like it, and the difference is, like, this isn't the original one to have the worth. It's like reprints
Yeah,
of
I
a
mean,
poster. Or
like the question of like what art, like what's the value of art, or how to value it. It's a total wild west, and there's no real way to say, you know, like, is it because the original painter painted it, or is it the image itself, or is it the, you know, is it the brush strokes, or is it the frame, is it the way that it sits on the wall? Like it's it's a totally unregulated market, like a totally unregulated market of assets that carry value
Yeah.
that I don't know how you regulate it, And then what's amazing about it is that so an interesting component of this conversation is that if you donate artwork to, let's say, a nonprofit, like let's say you're multimillionaire, you're making millions of dollars, you can buy art, donate it at a value that you set to a nonprofit, and then get a tax write-off based on the value that you set. And so there's art is also the best unregulated loophole for people to lower their tax obligations. So it's all weird out there, man, in the art market.
Yeah, it becomes more of like with the baseball card world, like has it lost its collectible because it's just about the investment and the value. And once a piece has value to it, people want it. So so the price just keeps escalating and escalating to be like, who can afford it?
It's the same as the NFT world, same as the crypto world. It's like the value is the value that people are willing to pay, and then in the art market world, though, it's like it's controlled by such a smaller group of folks that literally 100 people, 100 of the right people could get together and choose a value and then set a value of an artist's work if they wanted to. And what's shitty for the artist is that the artist doesn't get to participate in the value increase. Like they get the value the first time that they sell the painting, but then after the painting sells 2 or 3 or 10 times or changes hands or increases in value over time, the artist doesn't see any of that increase in value. They only see value at the very first transaction. And I think that that's hopefully one of the things about NFTs that is exciting, that takes off, is that there's smart contracts in there that allows for an artist to get a brokerage fee or get to see revenue every time that the value of the art goes up or changes hands, which is needed because the artist is always at the ground level of the value chain, and it's bullshit because the fucking value is in the art, the value is in what they created, and that's got to get shifted. That's got to get
that's you talk about artists, singers, actors do pretty well. The big time actors do, they're getting paid money, and the big time athletes are getting money. But it's crazy. You can argue whether or not LeBron James is underpaid at $40 million a year because of all the stuff he's bringing in. So it's no, but the world is evolving. Even you got the college with NIL, and they're trying to find a way to get money to the people who probably deserve it more. I talk about that with my stuff, like the difference between licensing and being a supplier, where you'll get the lion's share of the revenue if you buy from me and sell, as opposed to if you just give me a license and then you're getting 20%.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest travesties in the world of value, that biggest discrepancies, is NCAA, college football players and basketball players. I'm glad that that's starting to shift, but it's still man, the amount of money that these colleges make off of these kids, and these kids are putting them through these kids are putting themselves through all of this, all of this work, suffering concussions, going through life-altering injuries, working their ass off. And meanwhile, the colleges, it's making insane amounts of money, and these kids are barely able to make $1,000, a month. And so that's one that I think is just a total should be total travesty. I know it's shifting, but that's a big one for me.
Yeah. You did not go to schooling, correct? I mean, I don't know if that's a joke on your LinkedIn, but it says drop out, but you didn't have formal education, correct?
I barely graduated high school and then did not go to college. Yeah, that's correct.
So you had an idea when you talk about the founders and art wasn't the first thing. That was really what they wanted to do. Their job was just a means to try and survive until they could do that, right?
Yeah, a few of our founders went to art school, but then which is the case for so many kids who go to art school, once you get out of art school, you kind of have to figure something out that probably is not in the industry of art. And so that's what was going on for all of us. We were all honestly, like 3 of the founders were food delivery drivers, myself included, at the exact same time that we were negotiating with George R. R. Martin to buy the building. So it was like this like fucking weird juxtaposition of us like delivering food for $15 an hour, and then once we got off of our job, going and trying to get this building purchased by George, and having these dreams of like a multi-million-dollar project happening inside of this old bowling alley. And we just had to like believe. We just had to be like, yep, this is going to happen. We'll keep delivering food to pay our rent right now, but this is what's going to happen here in the future. Massive amounts of like belief and sacrifice on our part during that period of time.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to get into the art world? And we can say that as a larger sense, but because everyone's talking about you got to create content, and there's people who are, and stuff that takes off. I think people get rewarded for bad behavior, stuff that maybe shouldn't get rewarded. That's the algorithm world we live in. But what advice would you give to someone who really wants to get into that world and they're starting out?
Well, it's really important to form a vision before you start worrying about how that vision is going to get paid for and who's going to be able to help deliver on the vision. Oftentimes in our creative practice, we don't even let ourselves fully imagine the thing that we want to do, like fully bake the vision, because we're so caught up in, well, how is this going to get paid for? Where's the money going to come from? Who's going to be able to do this? Like, how is this going to even happen? Like, there's no way that this happens. We sort of talk ourselves out of it. But what I say is like, fully visualize what it is you want to do. Doesn't matter how much it's going to cost. Doesn't matter, like, just fully visualize it, run numbers, understand like the budget of it, understand who the audience is, like go through the process of fully, creating a business plan essentially. And then go out and raise the money. And the money will follow a good vision. Then once you have the money from investors, then hire the people who can do the thing that you envisioned, because you can't do it all. You're going to have to hire a huge team. And so just taking it kind of one step at a time, I think, is really important. And that's true for any industry other than, art or any industry. But within art specifically, I would recommend to any artist out there to just, I guess, realize that like everybody, the art market, the people who are interested in participating in art and creativity is literally everybody in this world. And try to deliver creative work that lots of people can engage with, that lots of people can be excited about, rather than just preaching to the choir, rather than just trying to make work that sells to, only the people who can afford it. So that would be my main message for anyone in the world of art, is think about all the other like 95% of people who have felt alienated by the art world for the last, however many decades.
Yeah. You on your LinkedIn, you say you like turtles. What's that all about?
That's like a YouTube video. Yeah, it's like a viral YouTube video. I like turtles.
Okay.
And so it's a reference to that. I don't really like turtles.
It's crazy what hits and what doesn't. It's just like weird things, like if someone falls on their ass and, whatever, it could be the next big thing. But you could have someone who's, a prodigy at whatever. Yeah.
This stupid ass thing on TikTok is the goatee thing.
There's great content, but there is a lot of stuff that you're just like, and people are throwing it at the walls, right? Because they got to see, why not? Who knows? That one hit could really be the difference between making it and not making it, which is weird to me.
I don't even know what making it means anymore in that realm.
Money. I think it means money or fame or followers. I don't.
Yeah, like I don't know. Are people making money on TikTok? I guess they must be. I guess like TikTokers probably are making some. You
have to hit a high number of followers before you can get that, and that's the same with YouTube and all of that. Do you have a bucket list that you think of, things you want to do? Travel, events, art museums, something that you haven't been to that's top of your mind that you'd like to get to?
I mean, that's like there's so much stuff. I mean, there's definitely places I want to travel to. you know, I want to go to Iceland. I want to go to Greece. I want to go to Tokyo. Like I basically want to go everywhere in the world that I haven't been. Um, I'm really big on like outdoor soaking, like hot tub soaking, like, you know, warm natural hot springs and stuff. So like a Japan tour would be amazing, or going to Turkey, the Turkish baths would be amazing. Iceland, but that's all just sort of latter stuff. I think the thing that I'm most interested in my life is like, I really want to at some point in my life work on bringing lucid dreaming to people's lives, like at an instant. Like I would love to work on a technology or partner with someone who understands this world a little bit better on like how do we create a device or something that can help people enter full lucid dream, like guaranteed, and stay in it as long as they want, you know. To me, that's like that's the idea that I'm so psyched on, that I hope someday in my life before
I got some weird dreams. I don't know if I want to get into them, but not nightmares, but they're interesting. Like there's someone in your life that you haven't been, you know, for 25 years, and they pop in your dream in some weird way, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, totally.
That's weird.
Yeah. Have you ever had a lucid dream? That's where you like control it, where like you're in charge of the dream and you can.
I feel like I probably have. I mean, I do dream quite a bit. So
it's like the moment when you're dreaming and you realize you're dreaming, and then you stay in it, and you're like, oh shit, like I'm gonna fly. I'm gonna like go and hook up with this person. I'm gonna like go ride a roller coaster or whatever. That's the state that I'm really interested in, is like when somebody's in control of their dream, you know, their dream state.
I feel like I probably do that more often than not, because my dreams are so weird that I kind of instantly know like this isn't happening. It's like,
yeah,
that's pretty weird. One more question. Well, two more questions. What's the coolest experience or place that Meow Wolf has taken you?
Oh gosh.
Is anything maybe just that jumps to mind?
The first thought for me that jumped to mind was Singapore, and like the Marina Bay Sands property, and the property that's like right down on the water. There's like just insane shit in Singapore. The airport is insane. They have these like giant indoor mountains that are like unbelievable. Like they're indoor man-made mountains that are like botanical gardens, but just like insane. Yeah, Singapore to me was probably the most striking of locations that I've been. It's like not my favorite city that I've been to that Meow was taking me to. My favorite city is Melbourne, Australia. Yeah. But when it comes to just sort of like shocking artwork and architecture, and like Singapore probably is the place that has been most incredible. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many amazing moments. Like I've had a chance to meet like the lead singer of the Flaming Lips, which was like a huge Wayne Coyne. It's a huge like influence to me when I was growing up, and got to walk around the house of Eternal Return with him, you know, or you know, hang out with George R.R. Martin in his hometown, the town that he grew up in, New Jersey, and do like a tour with him of like him describing what his life was like when he was growing up. Like,
what town was that? I'm from New Jersey.
Bayonne. He's from Bayonne. Yeah. And it's just amazing to hear this guy talk. It's like a guy who created one of the most iconic stories of all time, and talk about what it felt like to look across the water at Manhattan and as a kid, and like imagine all of the kind of kings and queens of Manhattan. And he felt, you know, like it was just incredible trip. So yeah, there's so many things, man. Meow has been a fucking trip, and
a lot more great things to come. We're going to let you out of here. The same question we let everyone out of the Wolff Den. You can hang out with one person. It could be anyone in the world. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Ideally, you don't know them. Who would that be, and what would you guys do?
Oh my God. Okay, it's probably Beyonce is who I'd want to hang out with.
Okay.
And what would we do? God, I just want to like kick it, like drink some margaritas and just chat, and like just just hang out. Like I don't need to do anything special. Like I just want to kick it with Beyonce would be the thing that I'd be most interested in. to me, she's just like, she's at a level, a modern day, icon at a level that is like once in a generation, and
Yeah.
and just to be around her spirit and just her character, that would be like, and I wouldn't need to do anything. I just want to talk,
Good.
like kick
That's
it.
a good choice. Well, we've done some outreach for our guests to try and see. I think some are more attainable than others. Somebody mentioned Putin, which obviously we can't make. We're not going to try and make happen, but I don't think we'd be able to anyway. Really appreciate your time here. Looking forward to what comes next for the experience. Information down screen at the bottom. Go
Yeah,
to the website. Denver, Las Vegas, Santa Fe. Keep an eye out for what's coming next. Check out the Instagram or Twitter. Your link tree has a ton of good information about the company. So check out on social and all the information, and reach out if you want to get more and share your thoughts with Vince on what you liked when you see it, and or what you might like to see. I think feedback has got to be a big thing for you guys, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we create stuff to try to blow the minds of the audience, so the audience is like premium to us, and so yeah, please let us know how you feel about the exhibitions, and check them out. They're fucking some of the coolest things in the world. I'm not just saying that because I'm biased. Like, I really truly believe like these exhibitions are some of the coolest things in the world right now. So
I'm going to be in Vegas in a couple of weeks. I'm see if I can maybe get over to it. But
yeah, man.
For a conference.
Yeah, hit me up. You're in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks too. But hit me up and I can get you tickets or something.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Well, have a great day. We got a couple episodes next week, so stay tuned. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.